Hey criminals! So welcome back to Favorite Film Friday. For the first case for this week, we are going back to my home state of Texas. Specifically, we're going to Amarillo, Texas. Our killer is, I guess, spoiler alert, currently is on death row. So you would think this case would be pretty much well known. However, Texas is a pretty big state, so you imagine there's a lot of people on death row. And I had literally never heard of this case until a couple weeks prior to this video being uploaded. So with that being said, and despite it being a death row case, there's not confirmed information that you think there would be. And so basically with that being said, I'm going to leave sources down below as always, give what's publicly known. If anybody knew our killer or victim, always fill us in, because, you know, whatever I didn't have on here because it wasn't publicly available, at least not what I found at least. And so with that being said, I'm going to quit my rambling and let's go and get started. So of course, we're going to start off with Brittany. Brittany Marlowe Holberg was born in 1973. Now, on Murderpedia, it says she was born just in 1973. Like, it doesn't have a specific date. Whereas, if you search her up in, apparently, the Texas Department of Corrections, where she is currently being held, because, again, she's on death row, it says she was born on New Year's Day. So, January 1st. But I've seen some places where they have January 1st as, like, a placeholder if they don't know your actual birthday. So, but what is apparently confirmed is that she was born in 1973. So just a heads up on that. And then, okay, so a little bit about Brittany before the incident that leads to why I'm covering her case. She would apparently drop out of school in 11th grade. She would apparently get married, if not publicly list her husband, list anywhere I could find. And apparently had a daughter, who obviously was not named because she was a minor at the time of her incident, all by the age of 20. And so apparently she would get addicted to drugs, and then obviously drugs, that's an expensive addiction. And so she would start doing prostitution to not only support her daughter, who apparently she was raising by herself at this point, but also the drug addiction. So in November 1996, Brittany would start off on a 10-day drug binge. So just basically just doing drugs back to back for like 10 days straight. So then fast forward to November 13th, which is apparently the 10th day. She apparently had borrowed a friend's car. As you can imagine, she's under the influence of drugs. So then she proceeds to wreck the friend's car and then flees the scene in a taxi. So somehow she got the taxi dude to, like, be able to come pick her up, even though she pretty much just fled the scene of an accident she caused. So then, of course, at this point, like I said, she has the drug addiction. So she's going to her drug dealer's apartment because she knows where he lives. But he apparently was not home at the time. So then she sees Arthur Towery, and he's bringing in groceries. Now, Arthur is like 80 years old. He was born August 30th, 1916. He had two sons named Rocky and Russell and a daughter named Linda. So then, of course, she sees him and asks, oh, is it okay if I use your phone? So I guess he was okay with it because they then get into the house. And then, like I said, obviously the drug dealer's not home and she's trying to get some sort of drugs. I guess at this point it doesn't matter. So she's trying to attack him because, again, he's 80. He's elderly. Naturally, you would assume somebody who's 80 normally is not going to be able to fight back and defend themselves. However, he is trying to fight back and defend himself. And because she was trying to take his prescription drugs to obviously use illegally for, like, recreational purposes. So, of course, Arthur unfortunately winds up getting stabbed like 58 times with 4 different knives and 2 forks. He also apparently was beaten with a skillet and a steam iron. And then also, I guess, like, the final blow of it all, I don't know if this is what killed him, but also it should be mentioned, there was a pole that was shoved 5 inches down his throat. So then she took a bath in his house, changed into his clothes, because also the clothes that she wore are now bloody, so can't be seen wearing those. And then she left with $1,400 and his prescription drugs. So then she gets a ride from a couple that apparently were, like, nearby, and apparently she gave them money, I guess it's like a thanks for the ride, and it's believed that the money that she gave them was the money from Arthur that she took after she killed him. So then Arthur is unfortunately found by his son Rocky the next day. So then Brittany's face would show up in America's Most Wanted, because even though it's believed that Brittany and Arthur had never met each other prior to the day of the murder, I guess the couple had told the police, like, hey, you know, this girl Brittany had called Brittany, we gave Brittany a ride. So I guess they had concluded that Brittany had to have done it. But then again, this is 1996, so maybe they didn't say how they connect the dots and roads with Brittany, but eventually they found out it's Brittany. She gets arrested at a McDonald's all the way in Tennessee. Keep in mind, this story took place in Texas. She gets arrested in Tennessee at a McDonald's on February 17, 1997. So, of course, during the trial, you can imagine Brittany basically tries to claim self-defense, even though Arthur's like 80 and she would easily be able to overpower him. Russell, the other son, so not the one who found Arthur, but because remember I said Arthur had 2 sons. Russell, the other son, would apparently admit later on in the interview that he had actually had plans to kill Brittany in the courtroom. for basically killing her father. So an eye for an eye, essentially. And then there was a woman named by the name of Gail Warren, who basically was like his assistance coordinator, and she was able to stop it. And then in March of 1998, Brittany is sentenced to death. So then in 2011, as you can imagine, because she was sentenced to death in 1998, she was still on death row at that point, because obviously they're not going to execute you right away, like you're on death row for at least a good couple of decades before they actually eventually put you to death. She would have filed for an appeal, basically saying that, look, lack of blood and fingerprints and all that proves that, you know, this wasn't a robbery, so therefore I should not be on death row. Should I be in prison? Yes, because I did kill a man, but I should not be on death row. So then, of course, that was rejected. She apparently tries again in 2014. She tries again in 2014. Of course, that's denied. She tries again in 2021, so not that long ago, because, yes, she's still on death row all these years later. That's, she goes, like, to, like, the federal, she goes to the federal level at this point, not just the state of Texas, I guess. And then that's also denied. And then apparently it said that Russell, the son, he apparently, to this day, at least at the time of this video, he still apparently carries around like photos of his father's murder scene in order to convince people not to do drugs. So basically, like, look, because it's gonna get to the point where you're gonna wind up killing probably an innocent elderly person who didn't deserve what happened to them, like how my father died, because of drugs. So basically, I guess I try to scare people straight out of doing drugs. So yeah, that is the case of Brittany Holberg. Like I said, that was a death row case, but it's not as well known considering how many people would be on death row in the state of Texas. Because again, Texas is a pretty big ass state. And so with that being said, if you knew other cases, definitely let me know. If you knew of Brittany, if you knew of Arthur, Rocky, Russell, Linda, because I didn't really mention her. She wasn't really talked about much. It was just really the sons. So with that being said, always let me know what you think down below. If you have any other similar cases, let me know. If you want me to cover any death row cases, definitely let me know. I cover fatal females 3 times a week. Subscribe for more fatal females. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.